Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 572, Tuesday, October the 9th, 2018. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let's get right to it. A lot to cover and not that much time, right? Alrighty, from the Daily Caller. An unknown Democratic senator contacted a former staffer for Diane Turn Your Guns, Mr. and Mrs. America Feinstein in March 2017 about continuing an investigation into possible collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russian government. Say that again. An unknown Democratic senator contacted a former staffer for Diane Turn Your Guns, Mr. and Mrs. America Feinstein in March 2017 about continuing an investigation into possible collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russian government. Who do you think that Democratic senator was? Any guesses? Oh, I think I know. I'd narrow it down to two people. Pretty sure it's a certain person. If it's not, it's almost certainly this other person. Let me give you another clue. The staffer in question that we're talking about is Daniel Jones, whose name you've all heard before. Daniel Jones. He, of course, operates a group called the Democracy Integrity Project, which is heavily funded by George Soros. Jones worked for Confusion GPS, or with Confusion GPS, and Christopher Steele, and he had told Mark Waldman, that 7 to 10 billionaires had put up $50 million to promote the Trump-Russia investigation. We also know that from Mr. Waldman that Jones was providing information to the FBI and lawmakers. And of course, we all know that Jones met with Waldman on March the 17th, 2017. And we know that because Mr. Waldman told us so. Now, so we have an unknown Democratic senator who had begun working with this former staffer, Mr. Jones, who had previously worked for Turn Your Guns, Mr. and Mrs. America Feinstein. So he quits working for Feinstein and he decides to go work for this private organization, Democracy Integrity Project, which is funded by a bunch of billionaires, including Soros, to funnel information about Trump-Russia into the FBI. And he's associated with Confusion GPS as well. In other words, he's right in the middle of the whole cabal. And so the question is, who is this Democratic senator that we're talking about? Who would that be? Okay, how many of you think it is Mark Warner? Mark Warner. How many of you think we're talking about Mark Warner as the unknown Democratic senator? I think it's Mark Warner. If it's not Mark Warner, and I'm about 90% certain it is, if it's not Mark Warner, then it's probably Adam Bug-Eyed Schiff. Schiff for brains. It's either Adam Schiff, probably 10% chance, about 90% chance, it's Mark Warner. Because Mark Warner was the one who was communicating with Mr. Waldman. Mark Warner was the one who was also involved in dealing with all these people as part of the Trump-Russia scam. He was up to his eyeballs in it, and we have all those emails and the fact that they were trying to get a meeting, Christopher Steele trying to get a meeting with, or actually it was, I believe it was Warner who was trying to get the meeting with Christopher Steele, using Mark Waldman as the intermediary. So I would say there's about a 90% chance that the unknown Democratic senator who had been working with Mr. Jones is most likely Mark Warner. I'm sure that'll come out in the next couple of days, but it's just more evidence of the sneaky business, the illegal business, the criminal business that was going on in all the various facets of the Trump-Russia scam. The stuff was coming from every direction. We found out a couple of days ago Mr. Sussman feeding it directly to the FBI. In fact, the general counsel of the FBI, the right-hand man to Comey and McCabe. And this stuff about Daniel Jones, we've known about this for a long time. This is not really new news. This is old news. The Rotten Reverend. She was spotted Monday at the unveiling of a statue of Eleanor Roosevelt at Mansfield College. And apparently she went into one of her uncontrollable coughing fits. And as usual, she was requesting water. I wonder if they have the Scooby van over there in England. You think Dr. Feelgood is hanging around? Haven't seen him lately with his EpiPen. We'll keep following this. There's something wrong with her. There's no question about it. There's something bad wrong with the Rotten Reverend. These coughing fits won't go away, and I don't think water is the solution. It appears now that Alaska's Republican Party leaders are considering a reprimand to Lisa Murkowski for opposing Kavanaugh. In fact, they may drop support for her. They're about to have a meeting to decide that. And in this meeting, when they drop support for her, they're also going to ask her not to seek re-election. Keep in mind, Trump won Alaska by 15 points. So what she did was very popular with the folks, very unpopular with the folks, and pretty unpopular, obviously, with the Republican Party in Alaska. So she is facing severe consequences, as I said she would. Well, we have James O'Keefe and Project Veritas outing another criminal Democrat. This one, Kate Brown, who's the governor in Oregon. She's been involved in one scandal after another, along with a healthy dose of incompetence. Now, you have to watch the video and watch the whole thing, but essentially the video revolves around the story of this individual, Michael Kolenc, K-O-L-E-N-C, who was fired after blowing the whistle on illegal campaign activities, primarily using government resources to conduct personal political campaign functions, which you're not allowed to do. The funny thing is that the previous governor of Oregon got ran out of town, lost his job because he was involved in illegal, the exact same thing that got the previous governor bounced out of Oregon, which opened the door for Kate Brown to come in. She's now doing the exact same thing. What's that tell you? It tells you that the corruption there in Oregon state government is systemic. It is systemic. It is the Oregon swamp. It's how they do business in the state of Oregon. They break the rules. So this individual blows the whistle on it and they fire him. So he's on this interview with Project Veritas, one of James O'Keefe's undercover people, and he's telling them all about it. Telling them everything. So whether or not there'll be consequences for Governor Brown, Kate Brown, we'll see. There may be so much corruption there that she walks. Who knows? It's controlled by Democrats, and she's, of course, a Democrat. So we'll just have to see what happens here. But it's another explosive expose by Project Veritas and James O'Keefe exposing another horribly crooked criminal Democrat politician. Trump at a press conference today, and he said, this is great, and he says, Kavanaugh did nothing wrong, that he was caught up in a hoax, and it was all made up. That's why you love Trump, man. He just tells the damn truth. He's probably been dying to say this for 2 or 3 weeks now. But now that Kavanaugh's confirmed, he can. because this is what we all know, that he's absolutely correct. Kavanaugh didn't do anything wrong. He had a few beers, whoop-de-doo. No, he was in fact caught up in a hoax, a manufactured hoax, a frame-up, a takedown, just like they tried to do to Trump, like they did to Bernie, like they'll do to anyone who stands between them and their power. The entire thing was made up. It's exactly right. Not just the last 3 or 4 or 5 allegations, because a lot of people want to keep playing this game where, well, Professor Blase Fraud, her deal was legit. She really believes it. But these other ones, especially the Avenatti one, the Swetnick, those are a bunch of crap. But Blase Fraud, oh, she was legit. Bullshit. Bullshit. I'm calling bullshit. No, she was running a game. She's an expert on deception, self-hypnosis, making up stories to sell narratives. She wrote a book on it. Well, co-wrote a book on it. Working for the CIA out there in Stanford, running their mind control program. I don't buy it for a minute. I don't think Trump buys it for a minute. I know most of you don't buy it. She's a fraud. Professor Blase Fraud. I certainly hope that we expose her. And I certainly hope that Kavanaugh or any of the other people, Mr. Judge or anyone else, sues the pants off of her and gets to the truth. Because her whole story is a fraud. I don't buy a bit of it. Not at all. So Trump's right again. I'm sure he was happy to finally be able to say that. So, something that, it's not like we don't know this, but guess what? Comey lied. Repeatedly. Comey said that he didn't know the origins of the dossier. In fact, he was just recently on with George Stephanopoulos, not more than, 3-4 months ago? And he's still sticking to that. Saying, well, I still don't really know where the dossier came from. Bullshit. Lie, lie, lie. And why do we know? Because his right-hand man, his general counsel, his legal counsel at the FBI, has just testified to the joint committee, excuse me, and told them that Mr. Sussman was feeding dossier information directly to him. It was being passed right on to Comey. Comey knew it the whole time. You think that the FBI lawyer there, top FBI lawyer, to Comey, is not telling Comey about where this stuff's coming from and who it's coming from? That's just not believable. And I'm sure Mr. Baker probably told them, oh yeah, Comey knew it all. So did McCabe. I was informing both of them about Mr. Sussman and this stuff. Which means Comey has lied big time. Repeatedly. Not just under oath to his testimony to Congress, but in his written deposition. And also in this, he also lied to George Stephanopoulos. But that's okay. You can lie to Stephanopoulos. But you can't lie under oath to Congress or to the American people. Comey's going down. J. Edgar Comey is going to prison. His holier-than-thou, self-righteous self doesn't think that can happen. He thinks he's too connected, too rich, too protected. He's not. No, he's not. His day's coming, right along with a lot of his friends. And, by the way, along with that, the Department of Justice and the FBI, meaning Rodenstein and no shit Sherlock Christopher Wray, they've been covering all of this up by way of redaction. Redaction. Key documents that implicate the rotten Reverend Clinton and the Democratic National Committee in the frame-up. Those documents had nothing to do with national security. Those documents that have been redacted or withheld by Rodenstein and no shit Sherlock Christopher Wray had nothing to do with national security. They were simply redacted and kept from the Congress and from all of us to protect their crimes, including the crimes, not just the FBI and the DOJ, but the participation of, just as I said all along, the rotten Reverend Clinton, the DNC, and their middlemen, which would be Confusion GPS and Perkins Coie. That, of course, coming to us from John Solomon of The Hill. Yes, we know all that. Now we just need to arrest them, charge them, prosecute them, and imprison them. Well, this character, Jackson Costco, who did the doxing, who outed the phone numbers and addresses of Lindsey Graham, Orrin Hatch, and one other Republican senator. We, of course, know he was arrested, charged with 5 crimes. All 5, I believe, are felonies. He's looking at 20 years in jail. But now we're learning more about him. We're learning from his lawyer, who is now saying that Costco was, in fact, a fellow. He was a fellow in the office of Sheila Jackson Lee. But he was being paid by an outside institution. What's that mean? Well, it means he was a political operative, a Democratic operative, who was working for someone, Hillary. And what is a fellow? Well, a fellow is typically, in this particular situation, it's somebody who works at a think tank who is some kind of expert on energy or transportation or healthcare or something. It's someone who's been given the credentials of being an expert in some specific field. And this expert, a lot of times in Congress, when members of Congress are working on some bill or some issue, they will bring in someone who's like a senior fellow or a fellow from one of these think tanks who's an expert. They'll bring them in to help guide this member of Congress or the senator, help guide them through some issue that's kind of complex and that they need real, professional, somebody who's really an expert to help them understand the issue. So this is when you generally bring a fellow in. That's what a fellow is, some kind of expert. So this individual was obviously a Democratic operative. He had access to the office of Sheila Jackson Lee. And it appears that he was working in the office of Sheila Jackson Lee as a fellow. We were told, first of all, he broke in. He snuck in. He used to work there, and so he was able to sneak in and get on someone else's computer. Then he was noticed by someone who actually works there, and he said, "Hey, who are you? What are you doing?" At which point he got scared. He threatened that person. Then that's what led this person to call the cops. The next thing they know, they pick up Costco. They charge him with these crimes. And now his lawyer is saying, "Hey, my client was authorized to be there. He's actually a fellow working for Sheila Jackson Lee. He was okay to be there. So he didn't break and enter. He didn't illegally use any of the stuff. He's not guilty of the charges because he was okay to be there." That's a problem for Sheila Jackson Lee and the Democrats. They're going to have to explain what this Democratic operative was doing there. Was he really working there as a fellow? Was Jackson Lee aware of this? Were any other Democrats aware of this? And who is this outside institution who was paying him? I'm sure they'll get to the bottom of it. I'm sure they will. Then we have Democratic activist Shawna Thomas, who was telling ABC, in a video clip I just watched, she tells ABC that the Kavanaugh protesters were paid by this group called Ultraviolet to steer people to create viral moments. And she was specifically talking about when they were having a conversation about this encounter with this crazy left-wing nutcase with Jeff the Flake in the elevator, which is alleged to have caused him to change his position on Kavanaugh. And so they have Shawna Thomas on ABC, and they're asking her about this that went down. And she admits, she says, "Oh yeah, the woman who confronted Jeff the Flake? Oh yeah, She works for one of our activist groups. She's paid. She's paid. And the group is called Ultraviolet. They supposedly fight for women's issues. So she admits that the person who was the instigator of that little elevator incident with Jeff the Flake was a paid operative. And that she said that their organization, Ultraviolet, as well as other left-wing activist groups, use these paid people to steer people to create viral moments. In other words, create incidents that they know will get on social media that can go viral. These are manufactured as well. Like everything else, it's manufactured evil. Manufactured evil and criminality. That's the Democratic Party. That's what they do. They manufacture evil and criminality. Oleg Deripaska, the government has now seized some of his assets, including his mansion in New York. Those assets have been frozen, and it is believed by many that Deripaska was an asset for McCabe, Comey, and Mueller. We know he's also connected to Mr. Waldman. It was Mr. Waldman who was being asked by Christopher Steele to smooth the skids for Deripaska so that he could have legal entry into the United States. This is one big cabal. That's what it is. And it's all being exposed very soon. You're not going to believe this one. The Clintons are going to begin a nationwide speaking tour. The Clintons are going to begin a nationwide speaking tour, and they're calling it An Evening with the Clintons. And you can go see the Evening with the Clintons if you're willing to fork out $228.44 for a ticket. Only $228.44 for a ticket to see Slick Willie and the Rotten Reverend sit there and lie to you for a couple hours and engage in revisionist history. And why are they doing this? They're doing this because they're dying to maintain their relevancy in a world where they are now irrelevant. Bill Clinton is like Schleprock. They were hoping that Democrats will be begging them to come out and campaign for them so that they could appear to still be relevant. But no one wants the Clintons anywhere around them. No one, except for Menendez in New Jersey. But everyone else, they want the Clintons to stay the hell away, as far away as they can, 100 miles away if possible. No one wants the Clintons around them while they're trying to get reelected. So, they have to come up with some other reason to keep scamming people and to try to stay irrelevant. And why do they need to stay relevant? They need to stay relevant because they need to grease the skids for the satanic offspring of the Rotten Reverend Clinton and Webster Hubbell, namely Chelsea Hubbell, otherwise known as Chelsea Clinton. They need to grease the skids for Chelsea because they can't get into power anymore. But they got plans for Chelsea. They're going to buy her a Congress seat. Buy her a seat in Congress. She'll serve a term or two. Then they'll try to buy her a Senate seat. And then they'll try to buy her the presidency. Where she will be the perfect puppet, the perfect tool to finish the work that Mommy and Daddy couldn't. So if you want to see the Rotten Reverend Clinton and Slick Willie, the accused rapist, you can catch them in friendly places, only places that are friendly to them, being Vegas, Toronto, New York City, Detroit, Boston, LA, and DC. All liberal strongholds. And you can bet that Slick Willie and the Rotten Reverend don't even travel together. They don't even live together. Slick Willie lives at his penthouse out at the Clinton Library in Arkansas. The Rotten Reverend stays mostly when she's not traveling around Europe or somewhere trying to avoid indictment. She stays mostly in Chappaqua, New York. They don't live together. They haven't lived together for many, many years. They don't hang out together. They don't talk very much. But now they're going to try to go out there and pretend that they're this happily married couple with all these wonderful memories and all that wisdom that they're going to share with all of you. Oh, go. Me and Hill, we got so many memories from back in Arkansas and trafficking in cocaine, the Median connection, and of course the Whitewater, and of course Hillary knocking off Vince Foster, and we just had a hell of a time. We just really have. And Hillary, she's been working like a demon. Yes, she has. Marsha Blackburn is now up 50-42 over Bredson in Tennessee after Trump came and had a rally there for her. Just shows Trump comes to visit, you get a 5-point bump. Hopefully Marsha Blackburn will pull out that race in Tennessee. Alrighty. Now back to the races which are going to decide who controls the House of Representatives in November. So this will be, day 3 now that we're working on this. It's going to take a couple days to get through these because there's 38 races that we're covering, and we're going to cover them all, each and every one, because each and every one is important. Remember, Democrats are pumping tons of money into these races that I'm talking about. These are the races that they've targeted that they need to win to take back the House. They're pumping tens and hundreds of millions of dollars into these races, running all sorts of political operations to destroy the Republican opponent. They're pulling out all the stops. That's why you have to get out and vote. So a lot of you, like I said, you're in districts that are totally safe, like where I live, red district. Democrats don't even run in my district. It's like 98% registered Republican or something. Some of you are in complete Democrat strongholds that are 90% Democrat. Those races will decide nothing. They'll stay the same. Those seats will not flip or change. But the 38 races I'm focused on could and may change. We have to win more than half of these races to hold on to the House. So these are all races that are either leaning red, leaning blue, or are direct toss-ups. So these are important. If I call out your voting district, you must go vote. And if you can, take a person or two with you. So let's get back to it. We are now into the C's. And by the way, this is all done alphabetically. So next up is Colorado, District 6. Jason Crow, the Democrat, against Mike Kaufman, the Republican. This race is currently listed a toss-up. The Rotten Reverend Clinton won this district by 9 points in 2016. It's in the Denver suburbs. Oh, you know what? We already covered that last night. Well, now I've covered it twice. So it's even doubly important. It's a race that's in play, though. It's important. Hillary won this by 9 points. But it's a toss-up right now. What's that tell you? It tells you that there's a lot of people who voted for the Rotten Reverend Clinton who are voting for a Republican because of the whacked out nut jobs in the Democratic Party. The demo commies. I can't stand them. They're terrified, and they should be. Give them some help in Colorado, District 6. Vote for Mike Kaufman. So we're into Florida, who by the way is bracing for what appears to be another hurricane. Got a lot of friends down there. I've been in contact with them, and they're basically preparing for what may come. We don't know how bad this storm is going to be, but we're all going to keep watching it. So let's go into Florida District number 27. Now this is funny. This is District 27, where you have Donna Shalala the Democrat running against Mona Salazar, the Republican. Or is it Mara Salazar? It's Salazar, the Republican. That's who you want to vote for. Now, the funny thing is, Donna Shalala is a heavy hitter in the Democratic Party. She was the head of Health and Human Services under Slick Willie Clinton back in the 90s, served in his administration. She's been pretty much a featured Democrat, kind of a high-level player. They thought that she was going to walk right in with her name recognition, having served in the Clinton administration and all her credentials and all that sort of thing. They thought she was just going to walk right into this district and run away with this race. But this race is currently a toss-up. She's not running away with anything or getting away with anything. The Right Reverend Clinton carried this district by 20 points. That's why they thought it would be a cakewalk. Hillary's like, yeah, Donna, you ought to run for this race. I won there by 20 points. You'll have no problem. You'll win this thing going away. But what they didn't count on was the resistance. The resistance against the Right Reverend Clinton and the demo commies. That's the resistance I'm talking about. People are resisting that. So Salazar has a slight lead right now, but it's still considered in the toss-up column. You do not want Donna Shalala representing you in Congress. You do not. She's a left-wing wacko. And she was a big supporter of Slick Willie, even when she knew what he was all about. She knows the Clintons quite well. She knows what criminals they are. She supports them 100%. Don't support the person who supports criminals. Vote for Salazar in Florida, District 27. Georgia, District 6. Lucy McBath, Democrat, running against Karen Handel, Republican. It's currently, this race currently leaning Republican, and we should hold on to the seat. We cannot lose this seat. And I understand that Handel, I don't know her that well. I've heard about her. I've heard she's a pretty decent candidate. And you should be paying particular attention to this race if you are interested in the Second Amendment, if you like to keep and bear arms, if you believe you have the right to defend yourself. Because there's probably no more person running in the congressional elections this year that's more anti-gun than Macbeth. And I believe it's because I think her son was killed in a shooting. And so she's using this as a platform to launch a political career as a congressperson. She's using that and riding that wave. And so she's running on this anti-Second Amendment, anti-gun agenda. So you need to get out in Georgia if you want to hold on to your Second Amendment firearms rights. You better get out and vote for Karen Handel, Georgia, District 6. Georgia, District 7. We have Carolyn Bordeaux running against Rob Woodall, the Republican. This is currently leaning toward the Republican, but this is a kind of a shifting demographic thing going on there. It could go either way. You can't leave this one to chance. Trump did win there by 6 points, but there's a lot of gerrymandering going on, and of course there'll be a lot of illegals voting, the whole 9 yards. Georgia, District number 7, you need to get out and vote for Rob Woodall. Rob Woodall, Georgia, District 7. That's where you need to be on November 6th. Illinois, District 6. We have Sean Casten, the Democrat, running against Peter Roskam, the Republican. This is also in the toss-up category. The Right Reverend Clinton won here in 2016 by 6 points, but Romney won there in 2012 by 8 points. So clearly this is a kind of a shifting district that can go either way. Probably a lot of independents here. You need to get out and vote for Peter Roskam in Illinois, District 6, so that we hold on to the House of Representatives. That's all we have time for. I'll be back tomorrow with more TowerGate. See you then. Bye.